Broadcasting live from atop the Rocky Mountains, the crossroads of the West. You are listening to the Liberty RoundTable Radio Talk Show.
The good book says, by their fruits shall ye know them. I ask you, what are the fruits of Donald J. Trump, ladies and gentlemen? Does he think he's Jesus? Does he think the war's almost over? Is he really going to abolish the IRS? Because I have to pay today or go to jail. Donald promises tax freedom, and I don't see it anywhere. He cranked up the ERS, the External Revenue Service, but he didn't abolish the IRS, the Internal Revenue Service. What's up with that? Donald Trump flips on FISA 702, and now it turns out the average mortgage payment surpasses $2,000 monthly. It's the first time in history that's ever been done. So inflation going through the roof. Trump says gas prices might not drop by midterms. Never mind, we don't get any oil from Iran whatsoever. So I don't know what's going on here, but by their fruits shall you know them is the question. What are the fruits of Donald Trump? You know, when he came down the escalator, in 2016 or 2015, everybody was like, man, this guy will never make it. He's a clown. Then he rocked to the presidency and everybody was shocked. And then he lost, and then, all the controversy. Now he's back again. So we've got in the last, let me think. So 2016, last 10 years, you've got 5 years of Donald now, 5.5. And the rest has been Biden and company. I think we're better off after Obama's reign, really. Now, I'm not praising Obama. I'm just making a point. But you kind of look at it from a debt point of view, from an accountability point of view. Are we better off, James, and what are the fruits of Donald J. Trump?
I see what you're saying in so much as you're not praising Obama or any of his policies. You're just saying if you could roll back the clock to that time in early 2016 or the end of 2015 when the Obama reign was ending, that as Americans, we were better off at that time in these ways. If my job, and you're talking about affordability for one reason and some others as well. If my job, how on the high school debate teams, you would be assigned a position and then you had to defend that position, whether it was your position or not.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
I think I
had to debate for child abuse, by the way, when I got that assignment. It was
That's a tough one. That's a tough one. But I think if my job was to make the case for Trump or against Trump, I could do a pretty good job on either side of that. And indeed, I have tried to thread that needle as a commentator for the entire Trumpian era.
You know what the national debt was at the end of Obama's term?
Less than what it is now. No, I have when you get the numbers that big, I don't know.
It was like 19 trillion. So it's literally doubled with Biden and Donald.
Well, and then again, you want to talk about the external revenue service, as you call it, these tariffs. That has been another thing like this war that has just wildly been on again, off again. I heard now even this week, since we're on the topic, that he was talking about 50% tariffs on China if they try to come out of the strait while he's blockading it. I mean, it's just, it really is something. Now, again, you go back to the whole idea was, okay, I'm not saying necessarily now the reality, but the idea was Trump was this outsider who was not a career politician, and we needed somebody like this to come in and break,
view, weren't you?
and break, and break. Well, look, and break up business as usual. Well, I mean, I guess you could say in many ways that's been done, but it may have been done in such a way that I just got to say this, and I want to make the case for Trump in a second, but I want to say this first, and that is that Donald Trump came down that escalator, as you say. And he took the winning issues of Pat Buchanan, and then he took those issues and was able to make it. He's a showman, all right. He's a salesman.
Oh, yeah.
He was able to take those issues that nobody else wanted to touch, and he won the election with that. But I think he has wielded the power and wielded those issues in such a way that it may have set back the entire cause, because now they're going to be associated with him more than a lot of the true believers who were advancing them. And, it's still only April.
Well, and he's only half baked those ideas too, to where none of them have really become reality. So let's just take, for example, deportation. I don't know if you know this, but Barack did more deportations than Trump. Do you know that?
All right, I was talking about this with somebody yesterday, and Biden as well.
Right.
In terms of deportations. Now, they had a lot more people to deport because you had a lot more border crossings. So it's just, yes, I mean, Trump has absolutely failed on the whole idea of we're going to go in and get all these illegals and we're going to do Operation Wetback 2 and we're going to get them all out, which was basically the promise. So that he gets a zero basically on deportations.
Not to mention get rid of guns on the gun-free zones first day. He was going to do that too.
All of that. Well, I mean, he did do a lot of executive orders that were good. I mean, we remember that, but it's easy to forget that now because it's just like, what's in the news at this moment. But the whole thing with the deportations has been a dud. However, the border is secured tighter than it has been in my life. That is also true. And these asylum seekers are not getting through once they do make it to the court. So again, I mean, it just depends on which element of this do you want to focus on. Whichever element you focus on is correct. You could make the argument. If you want to focus on deportations, then he's done very poorly. If you want to focus on this, he's done well. And what is the actual final score? Well, that's
all right.
That's
so let's
still
say,
to be
by
determined.
their fruits shall ye know them. And I want you to tell me, since he walked down the escalator in 2015, so it's been over 10 years now, Trump has been in control more than half of it, right?
Yes.
And so here's the question for you. What is the best thing Donald Trump has done? And you can't pick something that won't be lasting. So you can't pick something that the next president will just overturn because it's temporary. But what's the best thing Trump's done, and what's the worst thing Trump's done?
All right, I can answer that very, very easily. And you're right to make that distinction because so much of it can be overturned as soon as a Democratic president comes in, God forbid, and God save us. Because I will tell you, as much as people want to rain on Trump right now, look at Virginia. With Abigail Spanberger as governor. Look at New York City with Mondami as mayor. And that is what you're going to get nationwide. And nobody's interest, for whatever reasons you have to oppose Donald Trump, everything you don't like about Donald Trump, except for maybe the behavior, they'll come across as much more seasoned politicians. And it's going to be far, far worse. It's going to be far worse on immigration, probably just as bad on foreign policy, and they'll be persecuting you again. I haven't heard Donald Trump say one time.
Right, so let me rephrase this. You're saying, hey, you got to keep the Republicans because they're the lesser of two evils, and so there you go.
Well, I have never been a Republican. I have voted for Donald Trump 3 times. You will never tell me that the grand answer is, and I'm going to answer your question in a point blank way, and not as a soliloquy, but I've never said go be good little Republicans and vote Republicans. I've never been that guy. The Republican Party, there is a lot to be said. It's a mixed bag at best. I think there is some credibility to the idea that the GOP takes nationalism and takes populism, takes the energy from that and renders it inert. There is things that can be said to prove that. However, you do have Republicans like Representative Andy Ogles. Andy Ogles is a Republican congressman from Tennessee. It just so happens to be, but where I'm at. But he has put forth legislation to repeal the Hart-Celler Act. I mean, you would never get anything like that from the other side. There is some difference on some levels. There are. That being said, the two-party system, the duopoly, is still very real. But you asked me a point-blank question. Let me give you a point-blank answer. The things that won't be overturned, although that is true of any president. A lot of the Biden things were overturned by Trump, and it's very hard to get lasting legislation put through when you have this Tower of Babel in Congress that's never going to come to an agreement on anything. So a president does what he can for as long as he can until it gets overturned because it's much more difficult to get lasting laws passed. Worst thing Trump has done has been Iran. I mean, that's easy. We know that. The best thing is the Supreme Court. We have had some very real Supreme Court wins that we would not have had otherwise. We haven't won every case that has gone there, but the fact that he has stocked the Supreme Court with all the positions that have become available since 2016 is probably the best and most long-lasting thing. We'll look back on Trump and say, at least we had that. And also, it's not just the Supreme Court, Sam. 85% of the lower court judges that he has appointed have been conservative whites, i.e. people from his base. Whereas, of course, with any other president, you would have had, basically the Star Wars bar scene going in there of radical left-wing people. So I would say best
So you're
thing
saying
have
the
been his
courts is
appointments
one
on
of
the
the
court.
best things that he's done. Okay.
I think it is the best thing. Well, that and securing the border. I mean, sure, but I would say if you're talking about things that won't be switched when he leaves. It would be
That's right.
the court
That's fair.
justices.
And I don't want to just attack President Trump. I want to highlight the good that he's done as well. I also think he's been more pro-life than any president we've had, James. I wish he'd be stronger on this, but he's done more than any other president in my lifetime, and I'm almost 60 years old. So I'm just telling you that you got to give credit for that too, James.
And you have people like Stephen Miller. There's actually, I don't know how many of our listeners today subscribe to the American Free Press, but I actually put forth
Hold on.
my next.
If you don't, you need to right away. AmericanFreePress.com?
.net, AmericanFreePress.net. And
.net,
it's
ladies and gentlemen.
very similar in style and substance to the Epic Times, just to give you folks a baseline if you're unfamiliar with it. But I've been writing for them for several years, and I do a weekly Q&A. And I think one of the things I wanted to do in light of all of the things that are justifiably bad and indefensible with regards to Iran, from an America First perspective, if you're a Buchananite or a guy that sort of saw things Ron Paul's way with regards to foreign policy or, things like that, then you're probably against this war. And that doesn't mean you're anti-American, of course, but I think an America First position is to stay. I mean, George Washington would have been against this
Donald
war.
would say you're not loyal, and he's going to go against you and destroy.
Well, that's another. But see,
this,
a lot of Trump has always been a cult of personality. A lot of MAGA has always
Jesus,
been.
Right?
Or the doctor. A lot of Trump's thing is MAGA is whatever he says it is. So a lot of MAGA has been a cult of personality more than an ideologically based movement, although there have been many times where the issues have matched the personality, or at least he as a personality tapped into securing the border, staying out of these wars. Whether or not he's actually followed through with these things all the time is a different thing. But he made these issues MAGA. But then when he needs to switch his position, he says MAGA is what I say it is. And so now MAGA isn't necessarily all the things he said it was.
Spy on everybody, 702. That's MAGA.
Well,
if you're not
now,
for MAGA, you're against me and you're evil.
He's saying Lindsey Graham is MAGA now. All right, Lindsey Graham is the most. I mean,
and Lindsey Graham was the one hanging out with Benjamin Netanyahu, pushing Ben for the war.
Well, I mean, Trump is in Netanyahu's pocket, too. There's no doubt about that. Trump's definitely in Netanyahu's pocket. And that has always been a thing, I mean, that we've always recognized is that Trump is subservient to the Israeli lobby. I mean, most of them in Washington are, and you just had to accept that with all of the things
we thought he learned his lesson and was going to not have Jared involved this time. Jared's involved just as much, if not more than last time, just at a less, vulnerable position, meaning that he's behind the scenes and gets his name mentioned, but he doesn't get the focus like he did the first time. So Trump has learned some lessons. It's to move some chess pieces into protected positions, and other than that, I really don't see a whole lot. I mean, Jared's hanging out with J.D. Vance and some of these Pete Hegseth and all these different people to try to go ahead and manage the war. And why do we have Benjamin Netanyahu and Jared Kushner leading the charge for the Donald? I mean, were they the art of the deal, guys? I don't think so. But nevertheless, they're there, which I find interesting to say the least. Switching gears to domestic issues, and if we're better off, what are the fruits of Donald Trump? These aren't the fruits of Trump by any means, but it's interesting. Mayor Mondomny fuels affordable food drive with a $30 million East Harlem government grocery store. So, James, what I kind of thought would do, but we're out of money, so we can't do it. But what I was hoping to do would be to fly to James Edwards into New York, would get some cameras to follow James, and James would roll into this government grocery store. It's intended to reduce food prices and improve access in a high poverty area. They say the store is part of a broader pledge to open, a store in all 5 boroughs by 2029. This initiative aligns with efforts to address, quote, food affordability and coincide with Mondomny's 100 days in office. You've literally got communist, socialist mayors out there that are promoting government grocery stores, James. And Donald had nothing but praise for the guy.
A government grocery store at a wildly inflated price. I know what Sam's talking about because I was actually reading about this just last night, and I even saw a picture of the property that the city of New York purchased with taxpayer funds, of course, $30 million. And this is a little storefront. It looks like it's in sort of like the parking lot of a gas station, not a lot of parking. And the interior of the store, pretty small. It looked like basically a convenience store for $30 million. Comparatively speaking, Aldi, if you're familiar with the German,
of course,
German-based supermarket chain, Aldi.
Like
now they are
Aldi is like a tiny Walmart, right?
Well, I mean, they don't serve. It's just a grocery store. I mean, it's basically just groceries, whereas Walmart has groceries and everything else. It's
like
not as big.
Walmarts though, but smaller.
Yeah, like a neighborhood Walmart, where it's
that's right.
but it's got all the food you would ever need. I mean, it's a basic supermarket, but it is a low cost, no frills. It's like what Southwest used to be before they started being like everybody else. It's like the Southwest Airlines of supermarkets. You put a quarter in to get your basket, and you sort of buy your like 10 cents for a paper bag or whatever to put your groceries in, and then you can reuse them, of course. But they cut cost on the groceries anyway. Aldi grocery stores are pretty big, right? I mean, they're pretty big, and the cost for Aldi at the going rate of construction to build a store from the ground up and stock it is a little over $2 million, and it's much bigger. So $2 million for Aldi to get the land,
James,
build the store, stock it.
A communist mayor running this in New York, buddy. Come on.
Compared to $30 million for this basically looked like a little gas station convenience store.
But Donald having nothing but praise for this guy. When he said they met, it was awesome.
I saw that. When he got when he first got elected, Trump was.
So Thomas Massey, Sam Bushman, Rand Paul, Ron Paul, bad guys.
Yeah, it's
awesome.
Incredible. I saw that. But it was great that the article that I read compared it to what an actual grocery store would cost.
Calling good evil and evil good, James. I'm just saying.
So you're going back to the parable of judging someone by the fruit that they produce. But what was I going to say? Something about Massey. You brought up Massey. I mean, he is hanging on there. He's hanging in there like a rusty fish hook.
He raised a bunch of money. I just emailed his staff and said, "You want to come on the show and talk about your campaign so we can win this baby?" We'll see if he responds.
Hey, you just had sitting Congressman Paul Gozer on 2 weeks ago. So why not? Why not? And Massey, though, as we say in the South, hanging in there like a rusty fish hook. He is winning. I mean, all of MAGA and the AIPAC and the Jewish lobby and all of that money, because, I mean, the AIPAC lobby, I mean, they go after Democrats, too. They went after members of the squad and got them primaried and beaten. I mean, every big money in politics is in array against Massey's reelection, and he's still got about a 4 or 5 point lead over the installed and
I pray he wins,
challenger.
Because we really need to send a solid message. Why Trump would praise Mondami and then trash Massey is beyond me. But again, by their fruits shall ye know them. I'm going to tell you the worst thing and the best thing I think President Trump has done. I agree with you on the courts 100%, but I think the best thing he's done has been willing to talk about God and pro-life. Okay, Trump has been willing to do both of those things more so than anybody else. And religious people that I know who have actually been in the White House and who have prayed with President Trump say that it's real, and I believe them. So that's the best.
And two, I would say just very quickly before you get to the worst is, again, that is related to his appointments on the Supreme Court, because without those appointments, you would have never gotten Roe versus Wade kicked back to the states.
I agree 100%. All right, so that's the best thing Trump's done, in my opinion. I would say the locking down of the border is a close second and really vital as well, because I believe national security is at stake with that one. The worst thing I think Trump has done is the fast track of the COVID vaccine. And he can say he didn't lock everybody down, that the states did it and this and that and that and the other. But he literally let Anthony Fauci lie to the American people. He fast-tracked vaccines, and the fruits of his labor was we literally shut down society more towards martial law than at any other time in my entire life. And all the modalities that could have really helped people get well were mocked and shut down, and Donald didn't say a word. He just backed Fauci. And to this day, he doesn't even admit that it was a mistake or an error at all. In fact, he touts it as one of his biggest promotions. I mean, he literally single-handedly increased the debt massively by all the handouts and all the fraud. He literally put any of us who didn't want to take the vaccine by force in harm's way. People lost their jobs. People who took the vaccine because they were forced were harmed physically and everything else. And he literally changed society like nobody's business in a very negative way over that. And no accountability, even though we know the truth and we know most of it was a lie, and we realize all the harm that's been done. No one's getting to the bottom of the truth on that one. It's like no harm, no foul for Fauci. Oh, man, Rand Paul, he's a nutcase. Wow. And okay, but the worst thing he's done is change society. Will never be the same, James, as a result of COVID or whatever you want to call it. Fast track of the operation, whatever that thing is for the fast track of the vaccines and all this kind of stuff. Warp speed, I think it's called. Okay, that's the worst thing he did. I mean, he changed society like nobody's business. Children lost educations. People were locked down. Lap dances were fine, but going to church was not. I mean, he literally upended and changed society. I don't know that we'll ever return from that, James.
That was an era that I don't care to remember. And, of course, we all lived through it. And he said a lot of the right things, but didn't really do a lot of the right things. I mean,
where's all the ventilators we spent billions of dollars on?
All of that stuff. I can remember going to a theme park during that time, and you had to be 6 feet away if you were outside, but then every table in the restaurant could be full, and as long as you were eating, it couldn't spread. And that was true even at local restaurants. I mean, if you were eating, you could take your mask off, but if you weren't eating, you had to, because
that's right. Yeah.
All of that, none of this. It was fake science. They always want to say pseudo this, pseudo that. That was pseudoscience. And I will say this though, again,
it was criminal science, James, because it was flat out intentional lies.
A lot of people died as a result of it.
Anybody who spoke up against it was relentlessly attacked.
Well, I will tell you this, though, again, not to be a shill for the GOP, because I'm everything but that. But if you look at states like Alabama and Mississippi and Florida and Tennessee, and you look at how much freer those states were during that time versus New York and California, I mean, it was a night and day difference.
Oh, yeah.
And there are differences, at least on local levels. And again, everybody just has to draw their line where they can. And I'm not saying, be milquetoast and be moderate and lesser of two evils. But, I mean, you just have to have a good assessment and compare and contrast to make up your mind on how you want to proceed.
All right, I need a midterm projection, James.
All right, right now it's going to be a wipeout. I mean, but it is only mid-April, and people have a short attention span. If somehow, some way you can get out of...
I'm going to abolish the IRS on the 4th of July, my birthday, and celebrate 250. There's a lot of great things that
if he gets out of Iran before the summer and abolishes the IRS on your birthday, all of this can change by the fall. I'm not saying. I'm just saying if the election was held later this month, I don't know if any Republicans are going to be in Washington. But there is a lot of time.
You're right. There's some differences, especially on the local level, ladies and gentlemen. But I would encourage you to vote for conservative, constitutional people that will keep their oaths of office. Don't let party be the determining factor. By the way, shame. Trump administration agrees to fly the gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender flag over Stonewall Monument. He first took it down. Now he's already capitulated because of a lawsuit. He's putting it back up. That's a shame, but Donald's always been weak there as well. And finally, Trump takes a massive hit. Federal judge, Darren Gales, I think is how you say the name, scraps $10 billion lawsuit Trump had against the Wall Street Journal. Don't worry, Trump's legal team plans to refile the case. So that's a big, huge hit. He claimed that they were, attacking him wrongfully and unfair and, reporting. Again, two different standards. If you're a private citizen, it's a different libel and slander law than it is for me, you, and the Donald, James.
Yeah, Sam, you're leaving me on a cliffhanger. Fastest hour of my week already coming to an end again. But I could have talked to you about libel laws the whole show. Maybe we'll do that one again. That's always a fun one for me to get into. But I didn't expect a win there for Trump, and he's certainly not getting it.
James Edwards, thepoliticalcesspool.org. Check out his award-winning broadcast every Saturday night. Buy his book and more. He's a great one to follow. thepoliticalcesspool.org. I'm Sam Bushman. LibertyRoundTable.com, LibertyNewsRadio.com. We're everywhere. Twitter, X, YouTube, and more. God save the Republic of the United States of America.